We are in the third chapter of Ruth. And I'm going to read the chapter for us, and then we're going to do a brief little recap of what's been going on, and then we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. Sound good? Okay. Let's do that. Chapter 3. When her mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may go well for you? Now then, is Boaz not our relative with whose young women you were? Behold, he is winnowing barley at the threshing floor tonight. Wash yourself, therefore, and anoint yourself, and put on your best clothes, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not reveal yourself to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lies down, that you shall take notice of the place where he lies, and you shall go and uncover his feet and lie down. Then he will tell you what to do, what you should do." And she said to her, "All that you say, I will do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law had commanded her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk and his heart was cheerful, he went to lay down at the end of the heap of grain, and she came secretly and uncovered his feet and lay down. And it happened in the middle of the night that the man was startled and bent forward, and behold, a woman was lying at his feet. So he said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your slave. Now spread your garment over your slave, for you are a redeemer." Then he said, "May you be blessed of the Lord, my daughter. You have shown your kindness to be better than the first, by not going after young men, whether poor or rich. So now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you whatever you say. For all my people in the city know that you are a woman of excellence. But now, although it is true that I am a redeemer, yet there is also a redeemer more closely related than I. Remain this night, and when morning comes, if he will redeem you, good, let him redeem you. But if he does not wish to redeem you, then I will redeem you, as the Lord lives. Lie down until morning." So she lay at his feet until morning and got up before one person could recognize another. And he said, "Do not let it be known that the woman came to the threshing floor." Again he said, "Give me the shawl that is on you and hold it." So she held it, and he measured 6 measures of barley and laid it on her. Then she went into the city, and when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, "How did it go, my daughter?" And she told her all that the man had done for her. And she also said, "These 6 measures of barley he gave to me, for he said, 'Do not go to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" Then she said, "Wait, my daughter, until you know how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest until he has settled it today." This is the word of God for the people of God. Okay, so there is so much happening in this book and in this chapter, and I am not going to cover all of it, but I need you to know how amazing this is. And so you all have homework. You all need to find a way. Rob is going to publish a good commentary recommendation for you to read on the Church Center app. And you guys can all read how amazing this book is, because there's so much here. And this is an amazing book. And one of the reasons I say this, one of the reasons I feel sort of adamant about this is, one, I am a grade A, class A nerd. But also, we romanticize this book. We completely romanticize this book. And that's not to say that there's some low-key, nitty-gritty, secret horrible thing happening, but there are a lot of very human things happening in this story of these 3 people, and we just kind of gloss over it your God will be my God, and your people will be my people, and Naomi, go glean, Ruth and Boaz, and yay, it's a happy ending. And it is a happy ending. It is a truly happy ending, but it doesn't come without risk, vulnerability, cost, and all of these things are significant because these women have been through it. And if you were sitting across a table from a good friend and you were telling the story of everything that's been going on in your life right now, like, girl, my husband died and then I had to move and I went to this entirely new place with a new culture and some of these people are so suspicious of me and I guess I understand why, but I'm like trying to do my best. You would be exhausted. Like, we go through things that are not even a fraction as difficult as what Naomi and Ruth and so many other people go through, and we are exhausted. And I can't say that is where we find Ruth and Naomi, but it does seem like, and we're going to get into this now, it does seem like at least Naomi has gotten to a place where she's like, okay, how are we going to work out our circumstances? So here are the context clues. Just to recap. Chapter 1, Naomi, daughter-in-laws. Naomi's going home. She's lost her husband. She's lost her sons. She is sad. She is bitter. She is empty. She's like, I'm going. And we see that Naomi is wise. She's sharp. She puts forth a pretty compelling argument why her daughter-in-laws should stay in Moab. Ruth doesn't listen. So we learn that she is both loyal, she's compassionate, she's loving, but she is a woman of her own mind. She's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And she follows Naomi to Bethlehem. Right? Yeah, okay. For a second, it didn't sound right. And then we have Boaz, who is literally a pillar in his community. He's honorable. He is a man of resources. He's generous. He's kind. He's strong. He's like the dreamboat. And, we have all of the pieces here for a great romantic story. And this is a love story. Don't mistake it. But this is not a movie. This is real. Yeah. Naomi, at the beginning of the chapter, we see that she has she's talking to her daughter-in-law. Some time has passed since the end of chapter 2. We're sort of headed towards the end of barley harvest season. And while they have certainly benefited from gleaning in Boaz's field and they're eating well, that's about the extent of their security. And they need a lot more than that. Naomi is a widower. She's a widow. And she has an unresolved estate attached to her husband. And that has to be dealt with. And according to the laws of levirate marriage, which Rob talked about in chapter 1, there are a lot of loose ends for these women. They don't have a lot of security. And so we see Naomi say to Ruth, maybe I should help you. Find rest. Rest is another way of saying security. Why not Boaz? He's a nice young man. Why not Boaz? And I think as we go through this plan that Naomi seems to be proposing, if we get down to it, it sounds a little shady. It sounds, for lack of a better term, like she is advising Ruth to proposition Boaz. Now, we don't know for sure that's what she's doing, but the language is ambiguous. And it's ambiguous in a way that should make us nervous, that should make us a little uncomfortable, because it seems like Naomi is advising Ruth to do something that's a little sneaky, a little dishonest. She's essentially saying, put on your best dress, get yourself all gorgeous, go to the threshing floor, And we're going to help Boaz along because clearly he's a little slow. I don't know what we need to do here. You've been in the field this whole time and he clearly thinks you're cute. Can we tick-tock? Let's move this along. And she is saying to Ruth, go and uncover his feet and lie down at his feet. Now, in the Hebrew, it's unclear what these words mean. This is a strange idiom. We don't understand what this means. Go and uncover his feet. Why? That's weird. But in Hebrew, these words can be used as idioms to describe, intimate encounter. Now, is that what she's saying there? We don't know. It's ambiguous, but it could be what she's saying. The context clues kind of make it seem like that's what she's saying. And what should make us uncomfortable about this is that we know that Ruth has a reputation of modesty. She has a reputation of honor. She has a reputation of holiness. And this is to be protected because there are two characteristics that get noted about Ruth throughout this whole story. And they are, one, that she's full of hesed, faithful love, and she's a Moabite. And these two things, in the eyes of Israel, don't necessarily go together. Ruth being a Moabite is a real hurdle. They are not people that the Israelites trust. These are oppressors. These are people who are pagan. And they're not just like, look, they believe different things than us. They worship a warring God who they make human sacrifices to. I mean, this is not a little cultural difference. This is a massive cultural difference. It's a big deal for them to accept her. So for us to then hear this story and all of a sudden think, oh no, is she going to trick Boaz, our hero, our trusted community member? That should make us a little uncomfortable. But this is a really human thing that's happening here. Naomi is nervous. I mean, have you ever been through something really challenging, really hard, that just seemed like it had no easy solution, and the only thing to it was to just keep going forward? And you're doing that. You're going forward. You're doing the faithful, right thing, but all along the way, it just seems as if the solution has not come yet, and you're not even sure if it is. Like normally, when we're working out problems in our lives, we sort of see signs like, oh, this one little problem over here got fixed, and this one little thing over here got fixed. And I'm seeing Amy Stamps. It was just we just celebrated the 5th year anniversary of purchasing our house here in Dayton. And that was an adventure. And we had a very short period of time to purchase a house. And Amy took us to see about 402 houses in about 3 days. And we found a house. We did all the inspections and everything got done in a ridiculously short period of time. And even though the whole time I was like, oh my God, it's not going to work, there would be little signs. Oh, it is going to work. Okay, the inspection worked. Okay, we got the loan. Okay. And before you know it, we were in the house. Okay, that's not happening for Naomi. All of that wonderfulness of like, yay, God is doing things, that's not happening. She's freaking out. So she's saying to Ruth, maybe you should go down to the threshing floor. You know what I'm saying? Now, the threshing floor is a place that was sometimes known for particular types of encounters. And so Ruth would have known what she was talking about. And the surprise to us is she says, I will do as you say. I got to tell you, whenever I read this story, that part breaks my heart. I go, no, not you, Ruth. don't do it. Don't do it. Right, because we need there to be people that we look at in life that go all the way with the honorable path, and we want to know that they make it, that it works. And in this moment, we see a woman who has overcome so much, and now here she's going to do what? Sort of proposition a man when he's the most vulnerable and count on his basest instinct. That's what's happening here. That's what we're meant to sort of suddenly become anxious about. So, she does this. And we get to the part where she's uncovering his feet. You know, Boaz has worked all day. He's celebrated. He's had a lot to eat. He's had a lot to drink. And his heart is cheerful. I think, yeah, you know, he's feeling comfy. He's asleep. And then Ruth goes and lays down at his feet. And somewhere between arriving at the threshing floor, watching Boaz eat, drink, and be merry, hiding herself from him, and then going down and laying down where he is, and him waking up, something in her shifts. We don't know exactly what that is, but when Boaz wakes up, and I love the Hebrew here, it's really funny because the Hebrew, you know, we read it and it says, he was startled. That's not what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew says that he basically, it's the equivalent of jumping out of bed and being like, what's happening? Who's there? He jumps out of bed. He's startled and he says, who is this woman laying at my feet? And instead of Ruth simply waiting for Boaz to tell her what to do, which is what Naomi says, do whatever he instructs you to do, she responds. Now this question, who are you, is really interesting because it's like one of those God questions that you see in scripture. You know, in Genesis, when God says to Adam, where are you? And it doesn't really mean like geographically, where are you? This question, who are you, is a question of identity. And Ruth has told us from the beginning who she is. From the moment that she said to Naomi, I will go where you go. Your God will be my God. We know who Ruth is. She's loyal. She's steadfast. She's full of faith. And so when in the cover of darkness, when Boaz literally does not know who she is, he asks her, who are you? And she has the opportunity to decide to be someone else for the sake of meeting a need. And I just want to say, when Naomi says to Ruth, go and, lay at the threshing floor, kind of present yourself to Boaz, if he said yes, that would not be the solution to all of their problems. And I don't just mean that morally. I mean, that is like the good Christian mom thing to say. Don't do that. But I mean, in a very real way, they're not fixing their problems that way. They're solving one super low priority problem potentially that way, and that's the problem of food. But Boaz isn't obligated to marry her if he gets her pregnant. So that means he's not obligated to redeem the land or fix all the administrative stuff. There certainly will be no rest if she is a single mother. This does not actually fix the problem. All it does is fill their bellies. It creates that little pocket of security, which tells you mentally where they have come. At this point, they're tired. He doesn't see who she is. She could do anything in that moment. She could decide to be completely afraid. Have you ever been in that circumstance where you're pushed to the edge of your limit? and all of a sudden you feel like the ends justify the means. Because something has to work. Something has to work out right now. But she does not do that. Not only does she not do that, she just doesn't do anything that Naomi told her to do. He says, "Who are you?" And Ruth responds by repeating back to Boaz something that he first said to her. She says, "I am Ruth, your slave. Now spread your garment over your slave, for you are a redeemer." Spread your garment over me? What the heck? That's bold. That is marriage language. Now, when we first hear this, when Boaz says this to Ruth, he's not saying, "Hey, come under my wing, like marry me, girl." He's saying it to her at the beginning of the barley harvest, and he says, "Come under the wing of Yahweh," because when you glean and when you're in my household, you're under the protection of God. And she says to him, "Spread your garment over me. I want to come under your protection, Boaz." This is exactly what Yahweh says through Ezekiel to Israel when Israel is finding itself not in such a great, faithful place. But he says, "I love you and you were made for me and I want you. I want you to be my bride." Marriage language. She also says, "For you are a redeemer." So there are two things happening here. She's not forgetting about her mother-in-law, Naomi, because in this moment, when he says, "Who are you?" she says, "I am Ruth." Friend, loyal, steadfast, loving. That's who I am. And so I'm laying it all on the table. I'm not going for the little thing. I'm not doing the low bar. I'm asking for the impossible. And she takes this moment that was initially strategic, pragmatic. Now look, there's nothing wrong with practical things. But sometimes when we settle for the pragmatic, we get that much. But she's swinging for the fences here. She's like, "Marry me and redeem my mother-in-law's estate." I love that. She took a moment that was a little bit about scheming, a little bit about deception, a little bit about, seduction, and she turned it into a betrothal. That is bold. She says to Boaz, "Spread your garment over me." And she is using the same words to describe to him what he said to her that God would do. She's saying, "Boaz, you are Yahweh's wing to me. Boaz, you are God's means of providing for me and for Naomi. Boaz, through you, God gives rest, security, and a descendant." Very clearly, Ruth is in charge of herself here in this moment. She is like, if we were going to be all self-helpy and so we like, she's fully actualized. She is like full potential Ruth in this moment. And that's pretty much the last time we hear Ruth speak in the conversation with Boaz. And after that, it just becomes like a Boaz monologue for a minute. But it's awesome. It's so awesome here because there is a redemption of something interesting, a redemption of initiative. Now, what I mean by that is Ruth is a woman who takes initiative. She's like, "I'm leaving and I'm going with you, Naomi." But there are a few moments here in this moment of vulnerability and fear. She says to Naomi, "I will do what you tell me what to do." except she doesn't. And then what ends up happening is Boaz then receives her proposal very favorably and essentially is like, me? But there are so many younger men you could go for. And he affirms who she is. He doesn't see Ruth the Moabitess. He says, I see Ruth, a worthy woman, an excellent woman. And then he says, I will do what you tell me to do. I mean, how about that? You know, happy wife, happy life. I mean, they're not quite there yet, but I mean, he's like, you know, he's ahead of the game. No, but it is a really triumphant moment. It's a moment when we're all like, yes! And then he goes, but there is a kinsman redeemer closer than I. Because this is real life. This isn't a fairy tale. And it can't all just get worked out like that. Even when, so this is the breakthrough, right? So we were just talking about how it just seems like nothing is working. And then all of a sudden there's this huge breakthrough. And it's like, okay, we've done the hard, faithful thing. Will we keep doing it? Will we keep trusting? Because what the heck, what kind of moment is this with the Lord? When you've been through so many hard things and you get that moment of release, you're just like, yay, I'm good, I'm done. No, you have to keep being faithful. Personally, I think that is why this betrothal happens on a threshing floor and not at a well. Classically, you see a lot of the classic betrothals happen at wells, and they're kind of sweet and sort of like, oh, that's nice. Look, you know, Isaac thinks Rebecca's she's pretty. You know, I'm gonna go and find a wife for my master. That one's cute. You know, they're sweet. They're kind of full of a little bit of a sort of a naive, slightly idealized romance. Not this. This is an agreement. These are two people who are coming together and they are saying, this is my circumstance. And he is saying, I see that. This is my circumstance. This is a question. We both see that this is what we want to do, but we don't know for sure. Because if the goal is honor, then there's someone else who has to come before me. And in this moment, Boaz then says, look, lay down, stay till morning, because it's not safe for you to go out at night. And it opens up another question. Because she stays. So, did they? Did they or didn't they? Did they? Did they? I don't think they did. I don't think they did. And here's why. And this is why I read the commentaries, you guys. Rob's going to put such a good commentary in Church Center. Why? Because he sends her away. And this is why I think commentaries are helpful, because there's some symbolism at work here that would be maybe easy to miss. I don't know. But he says to her, I'm not going to send you away empty-handed, which is a promise of redemption. It's a nod to the promise of redemption for Naomi. But he sends her away with an apron. Okay, like an apron, like, you put on an apron and you put stuff in it and you pull it up in front of you, yeah, full of 6 scoops of grain. So what comes after 6 days of creation? Rest. Okay, 6 scoops of, seed. Are we tracking together here? Okay. He put 6 scoops, and the 7th comes in chapter 4, which Rob will tell you about, but it does involve changing diapers. And this is literary foreshadowing that basically says, here is the promise of fertility. and the rest that comes through the security of family, it's a hope, it's a promise, it's to be protected, it's to be prayed for, to have faith for, but we can't press it. We can't just jump ahead. You cannot scheme yourself into the fulfillment of God's promises for something. And so she leaves and she goes home and she tells her mother-in-law what happened. And of course her mother-in-law says, well, how did it go? But actually, you want to know something funny? The Hebrew of that, it always gets translated as how did it go with you, my daughter? But the Hebrew is, who are you? Who are you? Are you Ruth, the Moabitess, or are you Mrs. Boaz? And the question, they don't know. This is not an easy ending to this moment. They don't know. But Naomi, suddenly there's this moment where there is a rightly ordered application of her wisdom and insight where she says, you know what, daughter, don't worry about it. Because he's going to settle it today, mark my words. Because she's seen enough, she's known enough, and now she is applying her wisdom well. This is an awesome story. And we romanticize it because what we want is we want everything to be easy. We want things to be, not challenging. But the truth is life is full of moments that will sift you. And that's what's happening here. Literally, Boaz has been winnowing the barley, meaning separating the seed from the husk, the seed skin, the wheat and the chaff, but it's barley. In this moment, there is a separating that's happening. There is a separating of Ruth from her Moabite past and honestly, her family legacy, because the Moabites are descended from Lot. Read the commentaries. There is a lot to be redeemed there. And Boaz is descended from the line of Judah. Judah is a man who had a problem appropriately executing Levirate law. And a woman, Tamar, sort of had to resort to sort of deceptive means to get him to walk into his responsibilities. And what does Boaz do? Boaz does more than just meet his responsibilities. He does what is not required of him. And these two people become the grandparents of David, and 33 generations later, the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents of Jesus. What is happening here? Ruth, the Moabite, is not an Israelite, and yet God has seen fit to bring her into the lineage of Jesus Christ. And we see in this interaction between her and Boaz the foreshadowing of the rest we have in Christ. He fills her with 6 scoops of grain, bread, and Christ is the 7th. He is the ultimate sacrifice. He is our rest, and he was the one who was sifted for us. It is so easy to allow tension and discomfort and impatience to move us into unfaithful decision making. When we wait, even though things look like they may be falling apart, we make space for God to come and present us with an opportunity to participate in his redemptive plan. Where we not only get to satisfy our bellies because we get the perfect bread, but we get to see generations healed. And we get to see futures remade and curses broken off and all of the things that we know that we want and we know that we cannot do ourselves, but we're scared to let go of the control that allows him to do it. And this happens not just in individual lives. This happens in collective peoples like churches that have been through some things. Might look like things are a little hinky, a little weird. If you let God sift you and you rely on him to bring forth what is there, what he put in you, holiness, faithfulness, strength, you can't go wrong. Anyway, God is good. And Rob is going to come up and do the sacrament for the bread of heaven for us. But let's pray.